Hi, folks. Looking ahead. We all spend time looking ahead. What will the rest of the day be like? What things lie ahead? Where are we headed? What do we need to look out for? What do we need to do this week? Are there things ahead that concern us? What do we need to look out for? Are there places that we need to be? Things that we need to do? We all look ahead. That seems to be in the mind of the psalmist in today's passage in Psalm chapter 49. Here is what it says. Hear this, all you peoples. Listen, all you who live in this world, both low and high, rich and poor alike. My mouth will speak words of wisdom. The meditation of my heart will give you understanding. I will turn my ear to a proverb. With the harp I will expound on my riddle. Why should I fear when evil days come, when wicked deceivers surround me, those who trust in their wealth and boast in their great riches? No one can redeem the life of another or give to God a ransom for them. The ransom for a life is costly. No payment is ever enough, so that they should live on forever and not see decay. For all can see that the wise die, that the foolish and senseless also perish, leaving their wealth to others. Their tombs will remain their houses forever, their dwellings for endless generations, though they have named lands after themselves. People, despite their wealth, do not endure. They are like beasts that perish. This is the fate of those who trust in themselves and of their followers who approve their sayings. They are like sheep and are destined to die. Death will be their shepherd. But the upright will prevail over them in the morning. Their forms will decay in the grave, far from their princely mansions. But God will redeem me from the realm of the dead. He will surely take me to himself. Do not be overawed when others grow rich, when the splendor of their houses increases, for they will take nothing with them. When they die, their splendor will not descend with them. Though while they live, they count themselves blessed. The people praise you when you prosper. They will join those who have gone on before them. They will never again see the light of day, a light of life. People who have wealth but lack the understanding, are like the beast that perish. Let's take a closer look at what we just read here. Notice how the psalm begins. Hear this, all you people. Listen, all you who live in this world, both low and high, rich and poor alike. My mouth will speak words of wisdom. The meditation of my heart will give you understanding. And so the first thing we can find here is that we should listen to the words of wisdom. We hear the word wisdom, and we usually think about Solomon and the book of Proverbs. But we also find references to wisdom here in the book of Psalms. In Psalm chapter 37, beginning with verse 30, it says, the mouths of the righteous utter wisdom. Their tongues speak what is just. The law of their God is in their hearts. Their feet do not slip. As Christians, we should strive to be wise. Most of us, however, do not consider ourselves to be wise, but far from it, right? But we do strive for righteousness. And this passage tells us that as we strive for righteousness, we should also strive for wisdom. It tells us that our words should carry wisdom. But where do we get that wisdom from? Where do we learn such things? Once again, we can look at another verse in the book of Psalms, in Psalm 111, verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. All who follow his precepts have good understanding. To him belongs eternal praise. Simply put, we gain wisdom from the Lord and his word. Reading our Bible makes us smart and wise. It prepares us for what is ahead. With this in mind, look again at today's passage in verse 3. My mouth will speak words of wisdom, the meditation of my heart will give you understanding. Listen to these words of wisdom. Pay attention to what God's word says. What words of wisdom does this passage contain today? What else can we learn from it? Well, let's look and see what it says in verse 5. Why should I fear when evil days come, when wicked deceivers surround me? And so the next point is, do not live in fear of the evil ahead. We often live in fear and dread of bad things. This passage tells us not to do this. It does that by asking the question, why should I fear when evil days come? If you know Psalm 23, you know verse 4. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Sometimes it seems like the whole world is against us. We often find that living our lives for the Lord, seeking his righteousness, puts us in a constant conflict with the rest of the world. Evil is all around us, but this verse says that we should not live in fear of evil. We found these words in another passage in the book of Psalms as well, in Psalm 112, begin with verse 4. Even in the darkness light dawns for the upright, for those who are gracious and compassionate and righteous. Good will come to those who are generous and lend freely, who conduct their affairs with justice. Surely the righteous will never be shaken. They will be remembered forever. They will have no fear of bad news. Their hearts are steadfast, trusting in the Lord. Their hearts are secure. They will have no fear. In the end, they will look in triumph over their foes. How many restless nights have you spent worrying and in fear of the evil that you see ahead? As we said before, there is fear and there is faith. Fear is the lack of faith. They are in opposition to one another. Fear makes us worry and doubt. Faith gives us peace and strengthens us. As his children, we should not live in fear or worry. Jesus himself tells us this in Luke chapter 12, beginning with verse 22. Then Jesus said to his disciples, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and your body is more than clothes. Consider the ravens, they do not reap, they do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable are you than the birds? Who of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to your life? We know that. Science tells us, and the doctors will tell you, that worrying actually will probably shorten your life. Since you cannot do this little thing, why do you worry about the rest? Consider how the wildflowers grow. They do not labor or spin, yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all of his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothed the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, how much more will he clothe you, and here it is, you of little faith. And do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it. And then it says this, for the pagan world runs after all such things, and your Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom, and all these things will be given to you as well. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. We are called to have faith and to trust the Lord. That means we do not live our lives in fear of the evil that lies ahead. No matter how big it seems, God is greater than any problem and any evil that we see around us. Hebrews 11:1 says, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. The evil may look big, but God is so much bigger and greater. Do not fear the evil that lies ahead. Remember the wise words from Proverbs. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. There is no need to fear the evil that lies ahead, even though we are told not to fear the evil that lies ahead. We are called to resist it and not to live in its ways. The third point is there's warnings against the path of evil. We are told not to live in the paths of wickedness and sin. When I grew up in Tennessee, I would often take long hikes in the mountains. And there were signs at the trailheads that would warn hikers to stay on the trail. Veering off the path could be very dangerous. You could become lost. And there were streams and rivers that you could fall into. There were steep mountain cliffs where the ground below was hundreds, if not thousands of feet below. A fall could cost you your life. Even if you stayed on the path, there were also wild animals, bears in particular, that would attack you. There were snakes as well. There were also plants like poison ivy that you would avoid contact with. Danger was all around. You had to be cautious and alert. Peter writes a similar warning about the devil and sin. Look at his words in 1 Peter chapter 5. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy the devil prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings. Such is the destructive nature of sin and human desires. They can devour you. In contrast to the life of a believer, the psalmist writes about those that do not trust the Lord. While the world would consider many of them successful, the psalmist points out consequences for such a life and warns against it. Look again at his words in Psalm 49, verses 5 through 6. Why should I fear when evil days come, when the wicked deceivers surround me, those who trust in the wealth and boast in their great riches? Verses 10 through 12. For all can see that the wise die, that the foolish and the senseless also perish, leaving their wealth to others. Their tombs will remain in their houses forever, their dwellings for endless generations, though they have named lands for themselves. People, despite their wealth, do not endure. They are like beasts that perish. Verse 16. Do not be overawed when others grow rich, when the splendor of their houses increase. For they will take nothing with them when they die. Their splendor will not descend with them. Though while they live, they count themselves blessed. The people praise you when you prosper. They will join those who have gone on before them. They will never again see the light of life. People who have wealth but lack understanding are like the beast that perish. Living this type of life of destruction leads to destruction and leads to death. Those doing so often are at odds with those who walk in faith. They are driven by their own personal desires and evil ways. They are consumed by their sin. Like the dangers along the mountain trails, we are called to avoid their sinful and wicked paths. We should be on the lookout for them, but not fearful. We are called to stay on the path that God has laid out for us and to walk in faith. Finally, the need for redemption and a shepherd. Today's passage describes the path of the wicked, but it also speaks of a need for redemption. Verse 7, no one can redeem the life of another or give to God a ransom for them. The ransom for a life is costly. No payment is ever enough. And so they should live that they should live on forever and not see decay. If they only had a redeemer, someone to save their lives. Notice that it says that the ransom for a life is costly. As believers, we know who paid that ransom for us. Jesus himself tells us in Mark chapter 10, beginning verse 45, for even the Son of Man himself, and this is Jesus, did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom to many. Jesus paid the price for us with his own blood when he was nailed to the cross. The psalmist confirms this redemption in this passage. Psalm 49, verse 15. But God will redeem me from the realm of the dead. He will surely take me to himself. Jesus is that Redeemer. He rescues us from the grave that he conquered. He has redeemed us by his blood. Today's passage also talks about a need for a shepherd. Look at what it says. This is the fate of those who trust in themselves, of their followers who approve their sayings. They are like sheep and are destined to die. Death will be their shepherd, but the upright will prevail over them in the morning. Non-believers are like sheep roaming aimlessly in the wilderness without a shepherd. They follow their own desires and move to gratify their cravings without regard to their surroundings. Death, their shepherd, is waiting just around the corner. The believer, on the other hand, has a different shepherd. You all know the passage. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemy. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Jesus is our Redeemer. The Lord is our shepherd. Those who are living a life of wickedness and sin desperately need that relationship as well, but they must make the decision on their own to believe and trust in him. If you do not know him today, I would encourage you to make that decision now before it's too late. The Savior is waiting for you with arms wide open. He is a compassionate shepherd. Look at what it says in Mark chapter 6. And so they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place, but many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from all the towns and got ahead of them. And when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like a sheep without a shepherd. And so he began teaching them these many things. Jesus, the Good Shepherd, is waiting for you. He will protect you, guide you, and bring you home. Are you looking ahead? What do you see? Are you listening to the words of wisdom that has been provided for your journey? Have those words of wisdom become a part of your dialogue as well when you speak to others? How is your walk going? Are you living in fear of evil that lies ahead, or are you walking in faith? Are you looking out for the dangers of the path of evil? Are you resisting and avoiding sin? Where does your future lie? Where will you spend eternity? Have you placed your life in the hands of the Redeemer? Are you following the Good Shepherd? Are you safe in his arms? Will you follow him home? What lies ahead for you? I love you all. I miss you all. May God bless each and every one of you.